Hello, and welcome to Gatherverse News Unscripted. I'm Lisa Bernard. Thank you so much for joining me. This is where we bring you a humanity first approach to tech journalism. My guest today, notice like all of us have, that teens and young adults spend so much time on their phones, and often we use it as a negative. We criticize them, get off your phones. But she saw it as an opportunity, a tool to actually meet them where they are and use their phones to help teach substance abuse prevention. And so that is exactly what she did. Joining me now is Lisa Smooze. She is the CEO of the Social Changery. She has spent 20 years working on public and behavioral health initiatives. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. I want to just start by asking you, what is the Social Changery? What is your mission there?
So the Social Changery, we are a public health consulting company. And so we're a small team of folks from a really wide variety of backgrounds. I have a mental health background. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor, but we have a whole team of people from marketing and youth development and public health. And we come together to help both state, public, and private agencies do more good, especially in the public health, specifically the behavioral health kind of space.
So, one of your initiatives for doing more good is teaching teens and young adults about substance abuse prevention. And you've done that by creating an augmented reality game. It's called Decoded. And I'm lucky enough to have a copy of it. I'm going to show you all. It is so elegant. It is such a beautiful thing for these teens to get all these little pieces. All these little pieces go together, but they need their phones to actually understand what all of this is. So we're going to show a video of the actual game, some sort of digital look at the game on a phone, while you please explain to me what's going on here. What is the goal of this game?
Yeah, great. So Decoded the game is part of a larger campaign called Decoded, which is a substance use prevention program for teens and young adults, so 13 to 25. And, it started out like most public health substance use prevention campaigns, where it's all about, teaching kids the facts about substances, specifically cannabis is where it started out, so that they could make healthy choices for themselves. However, we found out along the way that, knowing the facts is one thing, but if you think about yourself and the choices that you make, even as adults, right, we make choices about our health, whether it's smoking or eating processed foods. Sometimes we know that smoking causes cancer and we know that processed foods aren't the healthiest for us, but we still make those choices anyway. And that's no different for young people making substance use choices. They may know the facts about the substance, and that may be part of the picture, but it's not the whole picture, because people make choices based on meeting a need, even if it's just a short-term need that it's meeting. And so Decoded is all about helping young people not just know substance kind of information, but more importantly, know themselves. And so knowing what's driving those choices, whether it's to use substances or maybe some other kind of a high-risk behavior, so that they can meet their needs in the safest way possible instead of being driven by them. And so that's where the game comes in, is basically it's a fun game. It's about multiverse mayhem. And it's about opening this wormhole, right? And it's a very morally ambiguous kind of a game that they play. And it's a whole setup to help them understand how they go about making decisions and what's going on within them that drives them to make the choices that they do.
So we also have some video to show some of the teens and young adults playing the game. I want to show that as you give us more specifics. What are the tasks within the game, and what are they teaching either overtly or indirectly about changes? Give us an example.
So it's a game that they play in real life. So in a classroom or something, as you'll see in the video, but they have to have their cell phone with them, right? So we decided to lean into the whole thing about like, we know they're on their cell phone. So let's just have them bring it into the game. And you can see them there. They're leveraging some videos and they have to do access codes. And there's an augmented reality component. You can see the little red decoder that they're taking a look at right there, where they're decoding a path that they have to find. And then they have to find a code from that. And basically what they have to do is use all of these elements in there, including their cell phones, including these augmented reality elements, to basically follow the story of Alex, who is opened a wormhole in the universe. And you have to choose whether to side with him in his quest to go through this wormhole, or you have to side with this organization that's trying to stop him because he might be causing damage to different communities that are back here on planet Earth. And so it's a very morally ambiguous task. And you see the kids there playing with the different elements. There's lots of puzzle solving that goes on. And so it does a number of things. One is on the surface, it's doing things like building cognitive reasoning skills, right? And building feelings of self-efficacy as they solve these puzzles. But on a much deeper level, they're choosing sides in a morally ambiguous kind of situation. And then after the game, there's a whole facilitation guide where the person who is the teacher or running the group for an after-school program walks them through, okay, so why did you choose to side with Alex? Or why did you decide to side with the company, with Edith? And then unpacking, like, would it have been different if you played the game alone versus with a group? Did your past experiences influence that choice? Did your mood and the feelings that you have come into that? Did you identify with someone? And so it helps them kind of understand what went into that morally ambiguous decision. And then we directly apply it to how does that show up for you in other parts of your life when you're making choices about substance use, about other kinds of health behaviors.
So it's in that facilitation, and I've seen you have a very detailed, thoughtful, comprehensive guide. Just reading off of it, the facilitators ask them, how do you think your emotional state could affect your decision about substances? What other factors might influence your decision about using substances? So you really are taking it directly, as you said, perhaps to the cannabis, to the other substances. Is that happens in the debrief afterwards?
Yes, and that's really intentional. So we knew that, if we have some game that comes out and it's overtly about like, should you smoke this thing or should you take this drink? Kids are going to think that's just dumb from the outset, right? They're not going to be engaged by that. So what we really wanted to get to was something that was engaging and was about decision making, but wasn't overtly about a substance. And then we could pull that out into the facilitation and the discussion that happens afterwards. That was also really intentional because we know it's not actually about any one substance or one behavior, right? If we go after, let's say, cannabis and we, focus on that, well, those needs that might be driving a young person to use cannabis are still there, even if they stop using cannabis, right? The need is still there and it's likely to pop up in another kind of a place. So it's much more effective and much more important that you teach the young person to know themselves and to know what's driving them and their decisions so that when you become aware of those things, you can make a more conscious choice.
And is there follow-up? I guess I should ask, where are they playing these games and who are the facilitators? And then is there follow-up if this does bring up other issues in their lives and decision-making, if they need a check-in with an adult?
Absolutely. So first of all, we've been talking about the game that happens in a classroom, right? Or in an after school program. That's where it's intended to go. And so in those cases, we have a full facilitation guide, and it would likely be their teacher or a youth counselor at a program that would be doing that whole experience with them. The idea is that they're in a safe setting where they have safe and trusted adults that can check in with them, right? And can do that connection and follow up, and that it's not just happening on their own. However, we also have a website, and young people can also be directed there where it has resources, online kinds of support that they can access, as well as access to hotlines and ways for them to access counseling and peer support.
And I know that you have an Instagram post about this that has had a tremendous viral impact. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So we have an Instagram channel because, again, we go where young people are at, right? So if they're on their cell phones in their classroom, we're going to leverage that and bring it into the classroom to fully get their attention in there. And we know that while social media holds a lot of things that can be concerning that we're seeing in the media a lot lately, that young people are on social media. And so while we have to be responsible and make sure that we're putting safeguards in there to keep folks safe when they're on there, we also have the opportunity to connect with young people and use it as a channel to deliver something really helpful and use it as a tool for good. So we do have an Instagram presence with Decoded. And we've recently been delivering, instead of having kids click out to a website, we've been delivering an intervention in Instagram itself. So they never have to leave Reels. They're just looking at the posts, and the posts themselves have some type of behavioral health intervention for them. And so recently we did one on anxiety and having tools that you can use, things that you need to know if you start feeling anxiety in different circumstances to help get through that. And we, as of today, are almost 2 million views on that one reel. So it's really landing. And if you know anything about young people, it's not like they're out following a public health campaign on Instagram. That isn't something that's super appealing. So the fact that we've gotten that level of engagement really shows the need and that it's meeting young people where they're at.
Yeah, that is amazing. I think that anxiety, when you refer to, if I'm not mistaken, it's just telling them to breathe, right? To take a breath,
Yeah.
sit down, simple things like that. And so they can, is that right? And they can just read it where they are. They don't have to advertise to everybody, I'm feeling anxious right now. It's a nice way to deliver the message, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so what we want to do wherever possible is free, readily accessible kinds of tools that they can integrate as a part of their daily life that they can use moving forward. And so, yeah, the video that you're referring to, there's a whole segment about box breathing. There's a whole segment about just recognizing thoughts or what to do if you come into a situation where you're feeling really anxious, to try to stay present through it so that you can feel mastery over it. There's a number of techniques that we give folks in the Instagram reel.
And who are the facilitators? Where are they? You said it's youth programs and schools. Can you tell me a little bit about who is embracing this with you?
So right now, who's really embracing this are our partners at County Behavioral Health and schools are the partners that are really embracing the game. And it's going to be rolled out this fall in schools when kids come back. So we recently just did some testing with it, right? So we've done all the test play with young people, gotten all of the kits ready, getting those shipped out to our county behavioral health partners who are also partnering with schools and after school programs, as well as places like clinics, young people's mental health treatment programs, right? Any place where young people are gathered together with a trusted adult who can do that facilitation with them.
And it's resonating. Have you seen in your results that kids really are getting something out of it?
Yeah, the test play has been really interesting. And, some surprising kind of things came up out of it. So when you were opening the packaging, right, and you were saying how beautiful the elements were and how high quality they were, that was one of the things that we got in feedback that really came back very positively from young people. So a lot of these games are going out to young people that are coming from marginalized communities, right? From places where they don't have a lot of resources. And so the things that they typically get in their after school programs or during their school classes, tend to be things that are people making do with the resources that they have. And so one of the comments that we got was, we never get things like this that are beautiful, that are really high quality and like made specifically with us in mind and using our cell phones and all of this sort of thoughtful kind of high quality gaming experience. That was one of the early things that was a surprise to us, was how enthusiastic and how much that made the young people want to engage with it.
Yes. Well, I mean, again, it is so beautiful. I mean, all these little pieces you thought of, really, and I'm certain it's a better way for these kids to spend their time than as being sort of in a preachy setting where they're being told, don't do this, don't do that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this with us, and, continued success, hopefully, with going forward. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
I appreciate it. Bye. Have a great rest of your day. And to all of you out there, please join us again tomorrow on Gatherverse News Unscripted. We sent our Gatherverse News reporters into San Francisco to talk to people about all this emerging tech and see who is using it, who's using all these new artificial intelligence tools. And those reporters will have a debrief with Priya David Clemens tomorrow at noon Pacific time, right here on Gatherverse News. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great rest of your day.